As DJ Khaled once said,
another one.
We're back with another video discussing one of the Iranian national team's top players who was previously playing in a top league in Europe go to the UAE Pro League, and the player I'm talking about is Mr. Saman Ghoddos, who was a free agent for a long extended period of time, but no longer. This video won't be like the one I did for Azmoun, where I had major criticisms to talk about when it came to his transfer to the UAE Pro League, but I think the circumstances are a lot more different here than compared to the horse lovers. So when getting started with this video, I'm going to talk about the good and the bad when it comes to this transfer and everything in between. But the main topic I want to discuss in this video is my main issue from where this transfer stems from, which is Amir Qalenoui. And you might be scratching your head wondering, Cheyenne, what are you talking about? Why does this relate to Amir Qalenoui? Well, you're going to have to stick to the end of the video to find out. Oh yeah, and by the way, if you're a big fan of Asian football, but more particularly the Iranian national team, this is the channel that you need to be at. So make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. As well, I will be doing a watch along for the Uzbekistan versus Iran match in Asian World Cup qualification, so make sure you click the bell notification so you know when I go live. This summer transfer window was a little bit of a tricky one for Ghoddos. He was only on a one-year deal with Brentford, and that ran out, and it didn't look like they were going to renew his deal, nor were they going to go in again for a last gasp contract renewal like we saw last year. But luckily for him, I would say he had one of his best seasons in Europe last year with Brentford, so I thought maybe his stock would be a little bit higher. Other English teams would be interested in him from the Premier League or the Championship. But with some loose rumors from teams like Southampton and Malmo, which I'm not sure how concrete and serious they were about the deals, he ended up being a free agent past the transfer window, which that's never a good sign. And I think the reason for that was there was no major team that came in with a serious offer. As I said, I think there was some loose interest from a few European teams, but no serious offer given to him, which is a little bit disappointing to see from his agent because he had a pretty good year last year, and for the fact he wasn't able to conjure up any decent negotiations with a half-decent European team shows again the lack of ambition from many of these Iranian footballers' agents. When it comes to the good and the bad, I think one of the big pros when it comes to this transfer is he's finally signed for a club. He's no longer a free agent, which we saw when it came to his performances in World Cup qualification. They weren't necessarily bad, but they weren't like his normal performances like we saw in the Asian Cup because he hadn't played for a while due to him being a free agent. So he was like that half a step behind every single player that has been in training, playing games, was a little bit into their club seasons. But the biggest overarching con with this transfer is he's going to the UAE Pro League, which is essentially him handing in his retirement. But unlike with Azmoun's situation where he did have legitimate offers from top teams in Europe, Ghoddos didn't really have anything on the table, so you can't necessarily blame him. That's why I'm not absolutely opening him a new one. Obviously, I wanted to see him still play at a top level because we all know how good Saman Ghoddos is, and it's just sad to see because there was so much potential with him. When he was playing at Ostersund, we saw Arsene Wenger praise him so highly, then going to the Championship, then the Premier League. I was just hoping this would last just a little bit longer. And of course, we mustn't forget, he's a couple years older than Azmoun. He's in his 30s, so realistically, even if he did want to stay in Europe, he maybe had like 2 or 3 good years left in him, but because there wasn't any good offers for him, he decided to cash in and go to the UAE. And I think that's fine. Make the bread, make the money for the last couple of years of your career. But my main issue, which this transfer stems from, is Amir Qalenoui. I do hate always bringing up these type of comparisons because he's no longer Iran's coach, but when it came to Carlos Queiroz, if one of the Iranian national team's top players made this type of move regardless of their age, I don't think Queiroz would have tolerated it. And that type of player wouldn't be getting significant minutes or just not getting called up to the national team whatsoever. There was a standard and type of ambition and drive he wanted to distill into these players. He wanted to push them to further their careers, be ambitious, go to Europe, regardless of their age or where they were in their career. There was a level that Queiroz brought to the national team. But with Amir Qalenoui, I don't feel like that's the case. We see guys like Azmoun, Qaedi, Moghalu getting called up to the national team, but they all play in UAE? Why are guys like them who are not playing at a very high level still getting called up to the national team when there's other younger players who are playing in Europe? Yes, it's not the top levels like a Premier League, a Serie A, Bundesliga, but in the Russian Premier League, trying to be ambitious, make steps to further their careers, and Sahar Khizan and Hossein Nejad not getting called up, but players who have zero ambition are getting called up and getting significant minutes for this project going into the 2026 World Cup. And Saman sees it and probably thinks to himself, well, if Azmoun, one of the most talented players, just decides to throw away his career and go to the UAE, why don't I just do the same as well and become teammates with Qaedi and Moghalu? Because I know I'll still be getting called up to the national team even though I just threw away all my ambition and I'm getting that big payday. That's the problem I have here. I know Qaedi has played well, but guys like Moghalu especially just shouldn't be getting called up. And you see guys like Sahar Khizan, Hossein Nejad, Gorbani, whoever it may be, the list goes on. The younger and more ambitious talent that Iran has get absolutely snubbed every single international window. Literally, Sahar Khizan and Hossein Nejad could literally be like for like replacements for Azmoun and Ghoddos. They literally play the exact same positions. Why keep calling up guys who are playing in the UAE Pro League, who have essentially gone to retirement, over guys who are significantly younger, hungrier, more ambitious, and can only get better and can gain that senior national team experience for players that have nothing more to give essentially? That's my problem with Amir Ghalenoui. He allows mediocrity, so then players see that and they're like, okay, well, if Azmoun and Ghoddos can go to the UAE and still be major players for the national team, get significant minutes, why don't I do the same? I personally don't think he pushes players to be ambitious. The fact that the likes of Khalilzadeh, Kanani, Moghalu, Nurafkan are still getting called up and getting way more significant minutes, major roles in the team over the guys that I just mentioned in Hossein Nejad and Sahar Khizan, where every single week we're seeing them have magical moments, getting goals, assists. It's just so frustrating to see. And that's the problem I have with this transfer. Because Amir Ghalenoui allows mediocrity and players see that and they're like, you know what? I'll just do the same. So in my opinion, if Ghoddos wants to make this move, which I'm less critical about compared to Azmoun because he didn't really have any offers on the table, that is fine. I think we're very much lacking in the midfield department, especially with attacking creativity. So that's why I think Ghoddos should still be in this team, but a guy like Hossein Nejad should be getting his minutes in the starting position. There needs to be some sort of repercussion standard that needs to be rebuilt with the national team. Going into 2026, surely we are not gonna bring out the same team from 2018. That is such an old roster, so many players in their 30s. I don't mind experience. You can have some of that in the team, but a healthy balance of young, hungry players and experienced veterans that are still playing at a good level. Not a bunch of mediocre players playing in the Middle East who don't have any ambition, drive. That is what absolutely does my head in. Ghalenoui, if you see players like Azmoun and Ghoddos, who are some of Iran's top players and have been for the past couple of years, make these types of moves, surely you have to accept it's time to move on from these players. But that's my points when it came to Ghoddos' move. These are like my thoughts and kind of what just ran through my head. Is it okay that Ghoddos went to the UAE Pro League to join Kalba FC? No. Am I super pissed off about it like I was with Azmoun? No, not necessarily, because as I said, the circumstances were a lot more different. My main overarching point when it comes to this stuff is Ghalenoui needs to distill ambition with these national team players, and I think that starts with his call-ups. Needs to actually be rewarding players that are playing well, are younger and have room to grow and get that national team experience before the 2026 World Cup. He promised fans that he would do that, but hasn't done that at all, and that's my big issue with him. He essentially lied to everybody, and that is why not only me and many other fans are kind of just done with the guy. And that could be stemming into a whole different topic on a whole other video. You guys got to let me know your thoughts, not only on Ghoddos' transfer to Kalba FC, but the whole tangent I had on Ghalenoui. And if you want to see a video where I talk about Amir Ghalenoui in or out, let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to smash the like button on today's video. Don't forget, we'll be doing a watch along for the Uzbekistan versus Iran match in Asian World Cup qualification. So make sure to turn on the bell notification so you're notified as soon as I go live. But boys and girls, I hope you'll have a lovely day.